I think Morgen is the best AI planner app, and not just because it's the only one that works with Obsidian, but also because it's so flexible and there are different levels of difficulty, I guess you could say, with how you can use it. You can be as simple or as complex as you'd like. As an Obsidian user, I'm going to show you how I use this with Obsidian, but you can use it with all the other integrations inside of Morgen. So I'm going to create a task inside of Obsidian. Let's just call it number 1 to start with. And then I have the auto suggest menu that pops up inside of Obsidian. This is the task plugin. So I can go settings, go into community plugins. Only see we've got the task plugin here. So if I left click, this is the task plugin. I have it installed and it makes adding dates, priorities and IDs far easier. So I'm going to go down 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 just to have a few tasks. And by opening up Morgen, you see Alt-C is the global hotkey. So I've opened up Morgen and now it's added IDs to all of these tasks automatically. That's a setting I have. I've done a video about this, which I'll leave in the top right. But at the moment, nothing is showing because I'm hiding all of my Obsidian tasks to clean this up for demonstration purposes. If I go into the View tab, you can see things with no tags are currently not showing. I've also hidden all of the other tags. So if I come into the task and go #test and then click back into Morgen, you can see now it's appeared number 1 as default priority underneath the test hashtag. And now I've done that with all 6 tasks. You can see all 6 tasks appear inside of my Morgen. The reason it says default priority is because inside of View, you can see I'm organizing by priority. I could organize by status, by note. I could, instead of grouping by tag, group by note or priority or status. And then the sort ordering is by due date. No due dates at the moment, so it's just going as they're coming. But let's go to number 1 and type due. You can see it's added in the emoji and it's given me an auto suggest for today, tomorrow, and let's just put it in for today. And now the task has a due date, which it's showing, and it's also appearing in the due today list automatically because it's obviously due today. Now I'm showing the tag and the due date. If I go to the view settings, I can turn those off. So I can turn off due date. Now that today has disappeared, I can turn that on, reappears, turn off the tag, turn it on, and priority. If I go to number 2 and say high priority, yes, it's separated number 2 for high priority and the rest is default. But if I now go and say due tomorrow, you can see you've got the icon next to number 2. And if we go to view, turn priority off, the icon disappears and the icon shows. If you use other integrations like ClickUp, go into the view menu, you'll get different options. If you use Google Tasks, go view menu, again, different options. Linear, Outlook, email, to do, Notion, you can actually use the properties. So you see select one, select due date and duration. So you can have multiple properties. At the moment, I'm grouping by properties of Notion. In Todoist, same sorts of thing. You get a different set of viewing options. But for this video, I'm going to focus on Obsidian, and you'll notice manage due dates on calendar. I'm actually hiding those at the moment. So this is due for today. This is due for tomorrow. I'm hiding that on the calendar, but I could, if I turn that on, show the due date, and you can see 1 is now due today. If I use the right arrow key, move to tomorrow, you can see 1 is due tomorrow, and tomorrow is actually when I'm putting out the AI planner. That's another Obsidian task, which I'm currently hiding. And the manage due dates on the calendar is a setting for each integration, so you could show just the Obsidian due dates and not the Morgen due dates or the Todoist, etc., etc. These are all customizable. Now, because all of these integrations are slightly different, there is one universal way to add estimated time onto a task, which is what you actually need to do in Obsidian. So if I go single square bracket and then say 1H, it's automatically closed the bracket because Obsidian is smart like that. But now I have 1 hour next to 1. Let's go 2H for 2 and go 30M for number 3. So now when I go to Morgen, it updates. You see 1 hour, 2 hour, and then 30 minutes. If I then drag this task onto the calendar, you can see it's given it a 1 hour slot, 11:05 till 12:05 or 11 till 12. If I drag number 2 on, you can see that's a 2 hour slot. So that would be 11 till 1 or wherever that is. So it's given it an automatic estimated completion time. And then I'm sure, as you can imagine, number 3 is a 30-minute slot. And I've just gone and added all the different priorities inside of Obsidian. So you've got highest, high, medium, nothing, low, and lowest. Now, even though inside of Morgen, you can see you've got all 6 of those showing in the sidebar, the AI planner, because it uses Morgen priorities, doesn't recognize them the same. So highest and high are both high. Medium is medium. Low and lowest are low. And then default is just no priority. Hopefully that explains some of the information you can get on external tasks inside of Morgen. Core Morgen obviously has these features already. So if I go into Morgen tasks, you can see I've got an example task list on this task. It's got a task list, which is obviously a Morgen. Priority, you can set the priority high, medium, low, or no priority. The estimate here is 2. You can manually type this in or use the scroll down. So if you want it to be 16 hours, go 16 because it doesn't actually go down to 16, but it will save. And then you can click and add the due date to wherever you want it to be. But I actually want that to be 2 hours. So to the AI Planner, how do you actually use it? Well, before you actually push the AI Planner button, there is level 1 to the planning scheduling feature, which is a viewable frame. So some of you may be familiar with blocking out your time with an event. You'd put in work in the event and then that would block out the time. Well, you can see at the top we've got tasks, so we could change it into a task in Morgen, or we now have a frame. And you'll notice the frame is sort of like a mesh grayed out with the name of the frame to the far right. You'll also notice it looks very similar to events. It's got a calendar, so it's in a calendar. It's got a name. It doesn't have a description. I'll go through this later, but it has a start time, an end time, and it's automatically added a repeat for every day. And that's because it's on a Tuesday. It's during the week. So Morgen assumes, hey, you want this frame every weekday. I'm actually going to click on this and say no repeat because I just want it on this frame. And then we have an additional button down the bottom. We've got the save as normal, but then we have schedule. Now I'm going to leave it and just say save, and this will always stay here. So I could, let's drag something down, go task space to turn it into a task and put test task and then enter. You see the task is inside of the frame. So the frame almost adds like a level to the calendar. So I can see, okay, in this blocked out time I want to be working, so this is a test task for this time sort of block. I could then drag from 2 till 6, move over to frame, and you'll notice the default name goes from blocked to smart frame because it is a smart frame. I'm going to rename that midday work and then save. And then if an event appears, let's say a meeting, and then a task to review the meeting afterwards, you can see all of these fit over the frame, so the frame doesn't get in the way, it doesn't block it up. So if I was to add a second task in and save, you can see now we've got a visual difference because they're 2 tasks. The frame just stays all the way in the background. For those of you wondering about external tasks, they work exactly the same. So these are Morgen tasks, but I can drag my Obsidian task from the side and schedule that in any slot. So all of the Obsidian tasks, the ClickUp, Todoist, and all the rest of it, they all filter in exactly the same because it's the integration into Morgen tasks. But I don't actually want any of these, so I can left click and delete, and that's just going to unschedule all of these tasks. And then this one is deleting the event. And now moving on to level 2, say you have a workday, so you work from 9 all the way through till 5. This is still the work frame. You'll notice when I hover over, you've got the Start AI Planner here. If I go to Edit, we've got the Schedule button there, or we've got the AI Planner button at the top. Now, all 3 of those take you to the exact same place. And so I'm going to push on AI Planner, and you can see it has planned out my day. It's taken the Obsidian tasks and put them in. So we've got the 1 hour high priority, then the 2 hour high priority, the 30 minutes medium priority, the 4 no priority because it's assumed that the no priority is still sort of baseline and the low priority is not actually that important. So default is above low or lowest, and you can tell because they're all bouncing and glowing, these are suggestions. They haven't been planned yet, they are suggestions. If I take a little quick detour to the custom view, just go to, let's say, the example Morgen task and go to filtered, you can see Morgen priority factor. If we hover over the eye, this is what the AI is actually looking for to prioritize tasks. So it's looking for all the information I explained earlier, the due date, the estimated time, the priority, but then it's also as smart. So if you've got a due date that you've ignored a few times, so a task's been overdue for 5 or 6 days, the priority of that will go down because the AI is thinking, hey, you haven't done this for a while, it's been overdue a while, it's obviously not that important. So I'm actually going to go into Obsidian, add a due date and say, okay, 6 is due today. So now we have a lowest priority task that is due today. And if we jump back to Morgen, you can see now number 6 is actually higher than 3 and 4 because it's due today. You will probably have noticed the 1 hour is a 1 hour slot, the 2 hour is a 2 hour slot, the 30 minutes is a 30-minute slot, and the other 2 are 1 hour. That is because the default duration is 1 hour unless specified otherwise. That's what this I says. So if I change this to 30 minutes, you see now we've got 6 as 30 minutes, 4 as 30 minutes, and 5 as 30 minutes. But Danny, you can't do maths. That's not 30 minutes. Well, it is, but this is part of the settings inside of Morgen. If I go to Open Preferences, I'm currently on Hustle mode, so it gives me a 20-minute break after 2.5 hours worth of work. Balance mode gives me a 10-minute break after an hour worth of work. That's too many breaks for me. The default task duration, 30 minutes, that's what I just changed inside of the settings, so these are the same. But you'll notice this tick box here, increase time estimate by 20% when scheduling a task. So what this does is that it looks at the time estimate and adds 20% on. So in this case, it's added 15 minutes for the hour. So the AI is scheduled from 10:40 to 11:40 and then added 15 minutes for that 20%. For the 2 hour, it would be from 11:55 till 1:55, but it's added 15 minutes for the first hour, 15 minutes for the second hour, so 30 minutes, so it's 2:25. So it's added 30 minutes onto the 2 hour slot. Hopefully that makes sense, but you can adjust the time. So if I right click, change estimate, I can change this and say, actually, I think this is only going to take 30 minutes. And now you can see if I left click, it brings up, it goes 10:45 to 11:15, so that's just a 30-minute block. You may have also noticed that I had an ignore, so if I right click on 4 and say, actually, ignore this task, you can see it's ignored that task completely, and it's actually given me some space. So what I could do now is actually add some breaks or buffers. So now I've got a break after this slot, and if I increase this even further, it increases the breaks between the tasks. And as I've mentioned, all of these hovering are suggestions. They haven't actually been scheduled yet. That happens when you push the big schedule all button. But you'll all have noticed probably all these tasks down here. Now I can't actually filter out these tasks, so these are my tasks that I've tried to hide. But as Morgen says, these tasks are due soon or overdue, but they can't be added to any frames. Drag them into your calendar to schedule manually. If I come down to this Morgen AI Planner, because that is the video I'm currently doing, and drag this in, you see a 3-hour slot. Let's dump that right here. It's now going to schedule that task, so it's on my calendar now. You can see there's no hover, there's no glow, but these two have now been adjusted and suggested below. If I change the breaks and buffers, it's again going to adjust the suggestion. If I come in, change that manual task schedule, it's now going to adjust all the other suggestions. But I can also manually drag in and schedule from the sidebar. So if I see, oh, this is due today, I actually want to get this done beforehand, so I'm going to drag that there. But now I can see that these two tasks are clashing. I'm going to drag this one down to there, give myself a little space, and it's slowly adjusting them. So if I right click, change estimates, change that back to an hour, you can see it's giving me a bit more space and the suggestions are still coming in. You see the hour has gone because I've actually scheduled the 1 hour slot there, so it doesn't need any more time. And if any of these tasks don't appear in this list that you would expect them to, you can go over the eye icon and it says this task was considered for frame work, but it does not match the frame filters. And that brings me on to level 3. So I'm going to exit out of the AI planner. You can see the hovering suggestions have gone, but these two are still there because I actually scheduled these. So I'm going to left click, delete, and left click, delete, and tell you a little bit of a secret about what I've just done. So inside of this work frame, to make sure none of my other tasks appeared, I actually filtered it to just the test tagged tasks from Obsidian to make it look slightly nicer because all of my other tasks would have appeared otherwise. You can see it's filtering for just those 6. When you set up a frame, if I exit, you can see it actually says any, so you probably would have seen there, Obsidian 525. That's a lot of tasks that could have been scheduled in there. So I could, inside of this work frame, filter for just Morgen tasks. I'm actually going to use my example 2, an example task list, because 1, there's less tasks in there to easier to manage, but also I don't then clog up the frame, making it difficult to see. So I want to have my example 2, an example list from Morgen, but I also want to have the task from Obsidian. So I'm actually going to add these back in from the test tag down the bottom. And that gives me 12 because there are 6 in those two lists combined and 6 in this one. So when I push schedule, now it's giving me suggestions from both of those lists. So you can see 1, 2, 3, and 6 appearing. 6 because of the due date, 3 because of the priority, 1 and 2 because of the combined. But then I also have YouTube record and Instagram edit. If I hover over to the Morgen task list, so you can see both of them, you'll notice YouTube script has 2 hours, so that won't fit in that 1 hour block. And then it's just suggesting 2 of the other 6 that's remaining. Maybe you don't want to edit Instagram because you need to do the scripting first. So I could say script is high priority because I need to do the script before the edit. Go to Instagram record, medium, save, and then let's say YouTube script is also high. record is medium, and then obviously edit, I just need to do it. You can see as I've been adjusting the priorities, the suggestions have changed, and now I've got Instagram script and YouTube script because they're both high priority, but obviously YouTube is 2 hours. Instagram is defaulted at 30 minutes. Maybe I think it's going to take longer, so I'm going to go for an hour, save, and you can see how the suggestions are being adjusted. This could then fill out your workday. But if we go into the frame and have a look at the edit, go to the filtered list. If we hover over Morgen task, you can see the information is task size, so that's the estimate length, and the task list. Notion, you can see we've still got task size, but you also have the select property. So you could filter for just YouTube or just Pinterest or blog from the select property. Maybe you've got an energy level that's in stars. In Google Tasks, it's just the task list. Click up, you get task size, status, tag, list, and the priorities from ClickUp. Todoist, you could filter by project or label or even section. Linear is just all of the tasks right now. Microsoft To Do, you get the task list, but then you also get the categories and the status. Outlook is all the tasks, and then Obsidian, you actually get the notes. So you could say only tasks from this note, or of course from a tag, which is what I'm currently using. But the more information you give Morgen, the more information you can actually filter by. So if I now push Control-2 on my keyboard, I have 2 days. Maybe I change this and say, yes, I want this to recur on weekdays, save. If I go into this filter, you can see the filter is exactly the same. So I can have a work week of generated tasks. So if we go W to a week view, now it's covering all the way through till Friday, obviously. Next week we'll go from Monday to Friday. Then maybe in the evening I could add another frame and say this is related to my personal things, so I can filter this and say that's just for maybe my Morgen inbox, which at the moment there are currently 12 tasks in. Again, this is going to weekday, but if I cancel this and say I want to do my personal task on a Saturday and go to frame, you can see the repeat is actually for every week rather than weekday because it recognizes, hey, this is a Saturday. You probably want to do this every Saturday, not every day of the week, so it's smart like that. And if you do want to add some custom recurrences, we go custom, let's just put sat, sun, every, so that's going to be every Saturday and Sunday, enter every week on Saturday, Sunday. I push save, and now the smart frame is every week from Saturday, Sunday. I probably should have renamed that to personal, then add the filter to inbox, and let's say shorter than an hour. So we've actually got 4 tasks in the inbox that are currently short tasks. So save. And now when I go to the Sunday frame, go to edit, you can see it's all in there. And so when I go to the AI planner, at the moment it's giving suggestions for just the 1 day. But if I go to the planner head and drag that dial all the way across, is now planning 8 days in advance. Now, I don't have enough tasks inside of the current filtered frames to fill up everything, but you can see there's the personal tasks, and there's all the other tasks in those lists. Which brings us on to level 4. All of these frames at the moment are exactly the same. They're all work. Well, what if you have themed days throughout the week? If I come in and edit this and say every week, so save this and future occurrences, I probably want to change this to Tuesday, and I'm actually going to get rid of the Obsidian filters because I don't want those there, and I just want the example task list from Morgen. And because I've changed the filters, I'm going to say this and future occurrences. Now I'm going to make one for Wednesday. So again, go frame, call it Wednesday, filter tasks, go example to list, and I don't want it every weekday, I want this every week. Save. Then we go Thursday, frame. We're going to add in any of those test tasks. And again, we want this every week. And so if I use the right arrow key, go to next week, you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, go left, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. These are themed frames. So when I go to the AI planner, let's actually reduce this down a bit. You can see on Tuesday, I've got the YouTube script, YouTube record, and YouTube edit because that is what's in the example task list. On Wednesday, I've got the Instagram stuff because that's in the example 2 task list. And then on Thursday, I have the Obsidian tasks. But what you'll probably notice is 1, 6, and 2, well, they're all due today and tomorrow. Why are they not scheduled in for Thursday? Well, if I come down here, there's 1. Let's hover over the eye. What's happened? The task was considered for Tuesday, but doesn't match the frame filter. It was considered for Wednesday, but doesn't match the frame filter. And scheduling on the 14th was considered, but that's after the due date. So if I come up to view and then manage due dates on the calendar to make this more visual, you can see number 1 is due today. So why would it schedule a task for after the due date? That doesn't make any sense. So it's not scheduling it. It's saying, hey, you probably want to put this in at some point. And so what I might want to do is say, hey, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this here instead because I know I need to get this done. Now it disappears from the suggested list in the right side, reorganizes the theme for the day, and that'd be the same for number 6 and number 2 as to why they're in the sidebar. We can double check that, go to I, considered Tuesday, doesn't match frame filter, considered Wednesday, doesn't match frame filter, considered 14th, but that's after the due date. So let's drag number 2 in, put number 2, let's put it there. And what you'll notice is YouTube script has now been split into 2 different tasks. And that's because I have this setting on split long tasks. When I go into open preferences, you can see there's that toggle, split long tasks, yes or no. And what this does is it looks for tasks longer than 2 hours and splits them into multiple sessions of at least 1 hour. So we have a look at YouTube script, that's 2 hours long, so it hits our threshold to split, and it split them into 1 hour blocks, again with that 20%, so 1 till 2 with a 15-minute buffer. It's also then scheduled some time in at the end, and for those doing the maths, there's actually still some time left for this task. So if I come up and exit, and then add in a homework frame for the evening, let's say, and save. That's gone for all the days in the week. Now go back to the AI planner. You'll notice YouTube script has gone in those 2 different spots. It's then picked Instagram script to go into this slot, and then put the YouTube script sort of like last few minutes over here the next day on Wednesday. Now again, these are just suggestions, so I could just drag this over to the left side. It's now scheduled that in, and now when I push schedule all, it's put them all in my calendar and has scheduled all of those tasks. Now having cleaned up those tasks, we move on to level 5, which uses another feature in Morgen called calendar sets. If I click in this small calendar at the top, at the moment, I've only been using example 2, just the one calendar, but you can see I have quite a few other calendars. So if I turn on the example calendar, you'll notice I've got events inside of my example calendar, and I have different blocks. I've got morning work and afternoon work. If I have a look at the morning work filter, you can see it's looking for the example list. When I go to the afternoon work, it's looking for any of those task lists that we've currently been working with. So if we go into the AI planner, there are the task suggestions. However, in my example calendar 5, I have other tasks. You can see I've got some Notion tasks, and that completely rearranges the tasks from the other calendar set, but also starts scheduling tasks from that calendar set. So any task that's in the example 5 calendar or the example calendar are now being scheduled, which is why we have all of these other tasks that have appeared down the bottom in those calendar sets. If I exit out of this for a second, you can see this work inbox and this free time calendar set are from a different calendar. If I turn off, they disappear, turn on, they appear. So what you can do is create calendar set workflows. For me, one of the use cases is if I'm working on my own, then I will use the personal calendar set. So it schedules all these tasks. However, if I'm focused on something in a week with someone else, then I may have their tasks on a different calendar to hide them away because I don't want to use that set, so I can turn it on, and now I have a schedule that works around other tasks I'm doing with other people. Something at this point I think worth mentioning is these tasks here are all suggested on the day. If I exit, and let's say I drag the 1 hour task into the all day section and drag that across, this is what I actually do for projects. I say, hey, this is the project I'm working on. This task isn't considered by the frames. You can't put a frame in the all day, and the same as any task that goes in the all day is not considered by frames. So if I push AI Planner, you can see it's still scheduled the 1 hour task slot for today, Tuesday, despite there being a task in the all day, which allows you to do a project planning session. So if I change this from the example calendar to say the example 3 calendar and confirm, I've got the project in the all day, but the task is still going into the task calendar. Where this is useful is when I'm actually planning, I'll push the number hotkey to go to my planning week. For me, that's actually number 2. You can see calendar sets 2, 1, 2, 3, and well, 0 is everything apart from the example calendars. 1, 2, and 3 are different planning views. So you see Tech YouTube and Sport YouTube are both on calendar set 3. So if I push 3 and actually go to the month view, you can see there are the videos. That's a project I'm planning. You can see they're all in Obsidian. But that is my project Gantt chart view, I guess you could say. So I can actually hide the projects when I'm doing the planning, but the task, the 1 hour task, is still scheduled. And this brings me to level 6. So if I go to today, I have a look at morning work, I edit, you can see this is only for one task list, the example task list. If I add the test tasks from Obsidian, I now have two different options. I can save, but you can see the AI is saying, hey, YouTube script is high priority, we need to get that one done. But I might actually want the Obsidian task to be prioritized first, so I want this 3 medium priority 30 minutes to actually be above the YouTube script. So the priority is in where it's coming from, the task source, rather than the task itself. And that's where we can be a little bit clever with the frames. So this frame is in the example calendar and is looking at the example task list and the tags task list. If I go to the example 2 calendar, now I have a different frame that's just looking for the example task list. So if I change this to just the Obsidian tasks and save, I'm going to actually add this to calendar set 8 and add this to calendar set 7 just so we can quickly toggle while we're in the AI planner. So go to AI planner, you can see on Tuesday it's scheduling the Obsidian tasks. If I was to go to calendar set 7, right now it's showing the Obsidian tasks, but if I add a due date to this, you can see, understandably, it's taking YouTube script and saying, hey, you need to do this before tomorrow, so it's going to move that over there. So what I could do is switch calendar set, go to the Obsidian, say, hey, prioritize Obsidian first, then add in anything else afterwards. So it's kind of like doing two schedules, schedule Obsidian, then schedule Morgen or Notion or whatever else. So you can use calendar sets in frames to prioritize certain lists over others. And to give you an idea, the AI planner scheduled in all these blue and purple looking tasks this week on Sunday, well, last Sunday, so I know what I'm doing when. This comes from my Morgen task, which you can see here, I've hidden them obviously, and then my Obsidian task, which as you can see, I've got one due tomorrow, and then tons in here. So the AI planner is looking through them all and scheduling them in my week, considering the events that I'm going to, the places I go to, the meetings, and all the other things that I need to do. And you can see I've got frames going on, which I explain more in my course, which I'll link in the description below. And for those vigilant throughout the video, yes, you can see I'm in a Morgen team, and that's because I started helping Morgen out with customer support. So as a point which I hope is fairly obvious throughout the video, I am very biased towards Morgen. I've been using it for 3+ years and am now actually part of the team. So yes, I am biased towards using Morgen, but I don't know of any other tool that does this, especially with Obsidian tasks, as well or as customizable. Does it add some friction? Maybe. I personally think it's worth it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below.